Hello, welcome once again to the Turret of Pleasure here in the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. I'm the Lord Chamberlain of the Enchanted Kingdom, Zip Gun, and we are in my nerve center, as always. The Empress is out with the Minister of Defense, Lord Ruggles, and that gives me a chance to do another video to catch up on accumulated purchases, which are all over the map. And I'm going to dedicate this one to the Empress herself because she bought most of this stuff in various thrift stores hither and yon, up and down the island. And she kind of would look at stuff and go, I wonder if Zip would like this. And you know, it's funny. She's got a real knack. She doesn't know what hardly any of this stuff is, or barely knows. But she comes home with stuff that just makes me go, wow. And she brought home all kinds of great stuff in all kinds of formats. On LPs. She found me LPs. Now, I don't buy a lot of LPs, and these were really cheap, apparently. She thought, I think Zip would like these. And she was right. First up, Sensational by Rusty Warren. Now, Rusty is a potty-mouthed female comedian of the mid-50s. It's supralaphonic, it says here. I love that. I'm pretty sure it's mono. Do you blush easily? Do you blush because you blush easily? Is there something dull about the innocent? Are you a pagan? Yeah, okay, we get it. Oh, boy. It's opening frank and frothy discussion on anatomy. I haven't listened to this since we bought it. My turntable is not working at this very moment. We're redoing it. An interesting note, produced by Herb Abramson, one of the partners that started Atlantic Records. Now this, I think, is after Atlantic had been founded, so I don't know the story about that. Having said all this, she's, by 2024 standards, not really that funny, but kind of funny in a kind of a weird way. Her record, Knockers Up, which you've seen in every thrift store in the world, hit the top 10 in, I think it was 1954. So, you know, I'm pretty sure she's long dead. Good for her. She made a lot of money, I think. Retired and came out every so often to do benefits and stuff, even though the bloom was way off the rose. Her comedy was no longer hip, but she had a great run, and I'm glad to have it. It's in great shape, too. This, I have not listened to anything by this fellow. James Young. Now, James Young is apparently, it says here, a legendary comic from Ulster, which is to say Northern Ireland. Now, what fascinates me about this record is purely the tactile and vinyl end of it. I'm pretty sure I'll like the material because it's probably fairly G-rated Irish comedy, and who doesn't like that, provided you can actually understand what they're saying. Now, this is a compilation, and it's on the really cool Emerald label. Emerald is apparently a Northern Ireland-specific label. And this is, if all you record junkies will know when I show you this, this was done in England, this pressing, under the auspices of Decca, which of course we can all tell, all of us record nerds, you know Decca when you see it. And so from a purely record viewpoint, this is kind of cool. A label I don't think I have anything else on. And it appears to be a compilation of stuff from anywhere from 66 to 72, and he died suddenly in 1974. And I'm actually looking forward to having the time to actually sit down and listen to some of this. Okay, so those were the LPs. Now, then she found some 7 inches. Now, as we all know, 7 inches are kind of like, oh boy, okay. But, I think those were $1. I think these were $0.25. I'm not sure. So she came up with 4 she thought I would like. And she came up with Thou Shalt Not Steal by Dick and Dee Dee. Now, I'm going to confess, I've never heard Dick and Dee Dee before. I've heard of them. And I'll tell you what, John D. Loudermilk wrote this one. Got to be one of the first songs he ever wrote. He's the guy that wrote Tobacco Road. Um, this is weird. Her voice is weird. It's like a little tiny bird-like soprano. He sounds kind of normal, but these guys they had a couple of hits, and this was sort of a hit. And you listen to it, and it doesn't sound like what you would expect a pop hit from 1962 to sound like. A little bit on the it's different. Second up, we have a little bit me and a little bit of you by the Monkees, a minor single. I don't think this was a huge hit. And it's a pleasant enough song written by Neil Diamond. What makes me want to keep it? Again, these are all in pretty good shape. What makes me want to keep it is the B-side, "The Girl I Knew Somewhere," which I can't remember. I listened to it today and I went, that sure sounds like something later, or Fleetwood Mac stole it or something. But at any rate, I like Michael Nesmith's originals for the Monkees. They're all pretty solid songs, and they're all worth listening to once. And this was a quarter, and it's even in the correct sleeve. What's not to like? So, yeah. Oh, dear. Hang on a second. All right. The muzzle for the Minister of Defense has come in, which means we can take him to group events without there being violence. Okay. Single number 3. I would buy this just to own it. It's in perfect shape. 1970. Thank you for letting me be myself again. Sly and the Family Stone. B-side, Everybody is a Star. What do you say? 4 minutes and 47 seconds. That's a long single for those days. An absolute classic. You could smell the cocaine coming out of this record. If I had a jukebox, it would be in it for sure. And then here she's knocked herself out for this one. Here you go. On Trans World Records, which I'm pretty sure is a Canadian label, and it wasn't on Trans World Records in the States, the Parliaments, of all people, I want to testify. Now, this is a really cool thing to own. It's in the scheme of all things George Clinton, for, of course, it is he who is the main spring in this band. It's not as exciting as it might be. It's really pretty cool 1967 era kind of doo-woppy group soul singing whatever. It's not funkadelic, but it's really good, and it's really cool to have it. I'll buy it for a quarter. Yes. Okay. So there's the vinyl. Good. I don't need much more vinyl. A little bit of vinyl's nice. The rest is CDs. Now, this is how much of a gamut this runs. We'll begin with the weirdest CD of the bunch, the Solitude Sampler album. What is that, you say? Well, it is a guy named Dan Gibson who basically built a record label. I think it was his, Dan Gibson Productions anyways. Holborn Records. And this is Nature Sounds by Canoe to Loon Lake. Spring Morning on the Prairies. Don't Feed the Alligators. Coastal Storm Seascapes. And so on and so forth. I have a lot of fun with these in my no-net system with the 6 CD players. And I will run this alongside another thing like this, alongside stuff. And they're great fun. As a listening experience, it's just a tad ambient. And I live in the woods anyway, so I just open my window. Classical, you don't need to know much about this stuff. Vaughan Williams' A Lark Ascending. Richard Hickok's Northern Symphony of England. Good symphony. What year is this? I can't read this stuff. It's all too small. Anyway, Vaughan Williams. I'll buy Vaughan Williams every day. 85. All right, this was weird. Monteverdi. No, I'll buy anything by Monteverdi. I'll buy anything on Reflex, which is this sort of sub-label of EMI Electrola in Germany. And what's his name? Andrew Parrott. And his, what's the group? What do they call this group? Do they have a name for it? Taverner Consort. The Taverner Players. Yeah, I mean, I buy this without even thinking. As it turns out, I have another version of this piece by John Elliott Gardner on Archive on Deutsche Grammophon, and you know what? They're really similar. I listened to big chunks of both of them side by side, and you kind of wonder why, but They're both great. This was $1. Sure, I'll buy it. Ravel's music for four-hand piano. If you haven't heard this stuff, it's great. The Rhapsody Espagnole, one of the great four-hand piano pieces, I think. This is on Meridian, which is a kind of a weird little British label, and I'm kind of a sucker for these labels. I've never heard of the Abbott O'Gorman Duo, but they play it great. They play it really well. Now, this is weird. I don't know. I am not, when it comes to my classical tastes, I lean to the instrumental, and I lean to the smaller scale. So, string quartets I really dig. Solo music, a lot of solo music like. Symphonies and stuff, sure, great. And vocal music kind of comes last. Because for me, classical vocal music, sometimes I just can't get around it. But I do try, especially opera. So opera is best live for me. Having said all this, a lot of people, their classical tastes run to vocal music. And because classical is supposed to be classy, one of the things in popular culture is when a person becomes a singing sensation in the pop field by dint of their fabulous voice, everybody decides in the sort of scheme of things that this person must do a record of classical repertoire. And this has happened to just about every singer of note that I can think of. I have Nana Mouskouri's classical record somewhere here. And this one, I'm just such a sucker. This was a quarter. And I know I have the LP of this somewhere. This is always... I'm not going to tell you that this is good or bad, because I honestly don't really know. But she does some Debussy. She does, of course, some Cantaloupe. She does a Klaus Ogerman song, which makes me wonder. Robert Schumann, Handel. If I kind of don't listen carefully and listen to it, it sounds fine. I'm sure if I were to nitpick with it, I'd find stuff to hate about it, but that's just not me. I'm not like that. Now, here's something weird. The Singers. I didn't even look up this series, but this is one of the millions of reissue series that the various, well, they're all Universal now. But, yeah, Universal Music Company, what year is this? 2001. They started to reissue everything they had, just like there was no tomorrow. Everything in their vaults, but they did it in usually a pretty sensible manner. And these Singer CDs, you have Nikolai I can't pronounce his name. Gurov. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I don't know this guy at all. This is, what era is this dude? They say they're not, I don't like it when it's like, when were these recordings from? Well, you got to go look into the book. Okay, well, then we'll do that. Why can't they just say recordings 63, 65, 62, 64? Okay. So from the 60s. Don't know anything about this guy, but again, these were really cheap. And just because of the quality of these reissue series, that whether or not you know anything about this guy, you're going to get a pretty good sampler of his work on this CD. Here's a different one, slightly different thing, but it's sort of the same thing. Now, again, I don't know who George London is. Now, this is, I think, slightly older, but this is Sony doing this. And I love it because it's a good package. It looks good. It's got a book, quite a thick book in it. It's got a vintage label for all you nerds. Oh, I love that. The 3 eyes. Hee. And this looks to be late 50s to me. I'm going to say, just look at the cover. And again, haven't listened to it. I don't know who he is. I can't wait, because I know I'm going to get a really good dose of George London. Now, Cecilia Bartoli, who I really do quite like, even if she is a complete star, and most of the time opera stars kind of bore me, but she's great. She's done a lot of good work, especially in trying to revive interest in obscure repertoire and whatnot, and it doesn't get a lot more obscure than this. This is her celebrating, if you will, the repertoire for castrato sopranos. It's 2 CDs. The second CD, if I remember correctly, isn't all that long. But nonetheless, it is and it's a huge book. Look at this book. Like, this is a crash course in castrati. There's the knife. That's maybe a bit much. Having said that, and I've only just sort of dipped my toe, world premier castrato arias. Now, they freely admit in the book that this is not great music. Yeah, the second CD is 3 legendary castrato arias. Now, there's not a lot available about the castrati, or the castratos, or castrati. Long and the short of it was, if I remember correctly, you couldn't have women sing for the Pope in the chapel, so you had to castrate young boys in order to raise their voices to play the parts, which seems about par for the course. And so, after about 1850 something, it was decided that this was actually kind of barbaric and maybe we shouldn't do it. And so the practice stopped, and the repertoire for these singers basically evaporated. The singers died. The last one made some recordings in 1902, which I have, under the name of The Last Castrato, which came out on the amazing Opal label, a bunch of English eccentrics who just reissue the neatest stuff. And they go to agonies to do it well. And that's a creepy record. You want to hear that if you can someday, if you want to know all about the castrati. And again, I didn't get a chance to listen to a lot of this, but it's really great because not only is it really interesting from a musicological point of view, but it's also a bit of a challenge for Bartoli because she is I don't know how you describe it. This is in the bottom of her range, basically, and she does it. There's a few places where you're like, ooh, but she does it great. She sings it really, really well. And it's a bit of a stretch for her. But it also, before this, she did a box about a forgotten soprano. And like, I love the fact that she goes out and champions these things. This is not new. This is probably quite old. I was unaware of its existence, naturally, because, I don't know everything. Oh, 2009, so, it's not ancient, but cool to have. So there's a classical. Okay. There is a jazz title. Now, okay. I love it because I never have had it before. Duke Ellington, New Orleans Suite in Quadio. What is Quadio? Well, Quadio, you'll have to look at my other video. It's the new Rhino initiative to make Blu-ray discs that, when you play them through your surround system, they come out in the original 1970s quadraphonic mixes that came out commercially in those days on discs, LPs. Now, this is a neat one because it's one of I don't think there's very many Duke records on Atlantic. If you'll remember, I was whining, and it really was kind of whining, that they didn't get the label colors right on the Mingus one they put out, because it was the green and red label. And everybody knows that the quad labels were whatever, plum and brown. Well, I guess they watched my video because they've corrected that, which is cool, I guess. And this is great. These reissues are sonically great for all you want. They sound really good. It's great to have them. My quibble, it has the original notes. I like it. It also has a picture of the tape box for the real nerds. I could live without that, but whatever. It has the original. Now, this was on every inner sleeve of the Weir Group's CD4 Quadradisc records. And this is the same graphics and everything. I don't think they mentioned the word Quadradisc, because I don't think they're allowed to use it. So, great to have. Now, $24.95 US. When this hit my Visa card, it was over $60 Canadian. That's too much money. And it's going to really seriously curtail my purchase of any more of these things. It's going to have to be, I don't know, maybe if they put a Herbie Man out, I'll pay that for it. Now, I'm glad I bought this because I love the idea that they're doing this. I know they've got a very limited market, but I have to order it directly from Rhino, and I don't know how 24.95 US translates into 60 plus Canadian for shipping something this big, 1,000 or so miles. I think it's a gouge. I think they don't really give a shit. They're just like, well, this is how it is. Take it or leave it. I'm gonna leave it next time, I think. Fuck. Okay, so there's my wine for the day. Now, back to stuff the Empress... Now, the Empress found... Well, this stuff is all over the map. Okay. The Empress found this up island. This is one of those 3 CD EEC comps that appear to be, what do they go? Copyright expired, as I call them. There's 2 CDs of Johnny Cash that are all really old, which means that they are copyright exempt. And then there's disc 3, the music that inspired, quote, Walk the Line, which is a terrible cheesy conceit, except for the fact that it's full of good music that I don't have. Carter Family, Billy Lee Riley, Bob Willis and his Texas Playboys, Charlie Feathers, Defrost Your Heart. This is good stuff. I'm really glad to have it. And I'm glad she bought this because Mississippi John Hurt, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Wade and Dick doing Bop Bop Baby. I don't know anything about that one. Ernest Tubb. So, yeah, I think this is $1 for 3 CDs. Now, I probably got a lot of the rest of this stuff elsewhere. But you know what? I can put it in the car. And, you know. Okay, now we get to some really weird shit. Now, this is... I don't get this. I was... a friend of mine was volunteering at the food bank. And I went to go pick them up. And they have stuff that they give people. And there was a little pile of DVDs and stuff. And there's CDs. I'm like, okay, I give up. And, okay, what do I find in the free pile at the food bank? But a tramp shining. One of the really crazy, silly records of the 60s, which spawned the unbelievably unlikely hit MacArthur Park. I'm not going to play this. I'm going to stick it straight into the car and wait for each song to come around on shuffle mode. Whereupon I'm going to go, what the hell is this? And I know I'm going to laugh out loud when I hear it. Another one that was there. I know nothing about this. I'm kind of slightly afraid. It looks like Heather Mills, who, if I remember correctly, had a disability, did a song that looks like it might be about disability, judging from the things on the front. And it says in very large print, featuring Paul McCartney. There's a radio edit of the song voice. There's the Paul McCartney's mellow extension, which we may get up to some monkeying around with. And then Someone You Love mix. And it's on some label I've never heard of. And it's really, I don't know. I got a feeling it's terrible. But I got to hear it. It was free. Free, they said. Free! Bamba by Clannad. Now, Clannad's one of these bands. I can't blame them for selling out the way they did, because it made them a lot of money. But unfortunately, it turned them into this almost unlistenable band, when in the beginnings, they were actually pretty damn good. And then they got under the arms of U2, and it all just turned into horrible shit. But I don't know if this is any good or not. It was free. I'm going to find out if it's no bloody good. I'll give it back to them. This looked interesting, and it comes very highly recommended. I've yet to hear it. Solas on Shinachi. They're from Philadelphia, and they're like apparently one of the really good Irish trad style bands playing. Although I don't think many of them are Irish. I think they're Americans. But they've made a pile of records. They all get great reviews with All Music. And this is another one I'm going to stick in the car and just let it sneak up on me. And I'll bet I really like it. Okay, this was free. Now, if you're out there, Chris Demeanor, I've never heard Chris Demeanor's music. I know he's a really nice, good guy. He's toured with my friend Carolyn Mark a million times. He's toured with a whole bunch of people I know. And everybody has lovely things to say about him. And I'm like, here's the poor guy's CD, sealed for free at the food bank. I said, I deserve this. It deserves to go home with me, and I'm going to make a big deal out of opening it, you know, letting the air into it and playing it all the way through while I give it a good listen, because I'll bet it's really good. But that's, you put your heart and soul into making a CD, and that happens. You can't let it bug you. You can only laugh. This, I have no idea. This could be terrible. It could be great. He's from Guinea-Bissau. It's on a label called Nube Negra, which I'm not sure what's. File under World Music, Guinea-Bissau. Okay. He's a pretty happy-looking dude. Bidinte. It seems to be fairly small-scale acoustic guitar. Probably, I don't want to call it palm wine music, but probably West Coast African upbeat acoustic. But again, I haven't heard it, and we're getting into territory here where I haven't listened to this stuff. I'm just sort of, and again, why did I buy this? Well, it's on Sub Pop. What is it? The Oxford Collapse doing an album called Bits. I have no idea what it is, but if it's no bloody good, I'm sure I can trade it in at the local rock emporium. The Empress is a big fan of Faithless, and so we bought this. Now, I just noticed that I've bought a CD that has no CD in it, so I guess that's not going to happen. But we can use the jewel box. That's funny. Okay, more freebies. These were free. Figured I'd give them. Why not? A couple of Bette Midler. Bette of Roses. And which one's this again? This is Bathhouse Betty. Bette Midler I have some trouble with, I gotta say. Great singer, great entertainer. It just doesn't do it for me. The thing I've liked best out of her was she does a really great version of Shiver Me Timbers by Tom Waits on, I think it might be her third album, Songs from the New Depression. And I thought that was really great. And I mean, I know she's got it, but I know that what she does isn't designed to appeal to me. But then again, how many of me are there out there compared to everything else? She's had a terrific career, and I'm going to listen to those at least once before I figure out what to do with them. I may or may not keep them. And then finally, this was in the free pile at the thrift store, at the food bank. And again, it's like Brooke Benton now. I barely remember Brooke Benton, and this is from before he had his hit on Cotillion, the name of which is escaping me. So again, into the car, onto shuffle mode. These will wheel around, and I'll be like, wow, this is cool. What's this? There you have it. Look at that. What a pile of weirdness. Thanks for watching, and I got more stuff. I'm going to do a book review coming up soon. I'm just waiting on one book. And a whole bunch of books I'm going to review that are thematically linked. So that's next on the thing. And, we're out and about doing this and that. Not a lot of it is worthy of making videos about, but when they are, I'll make them. So, thanks. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all that other whatever. And we will get back at you soon. Take care of each other and take care of yourselves. See ya.